Hi, I'm Malcolm McKee, District Commissioner of Leatherhead District Scouts, and I'm back with more ideas of scouting you can do at home. This time we're going to be looking at the Scouts Pioneer Badge and 6 knots that are useful in pioneering. The first knot we're going to be looking at is a clove hitch, which you use to secure a rope to a tree or other bit of wood. There's 2 ways of making the clove hitch. In the first way, I'm just going to make 2 loops with the string and then put it over the bit of wood. So the first loop, just right over left like that, and then the second loop, right over left again. I slide the second loop behind the first loop, pass the whole thing over the bit of wood, and then pull it tight, and there's our clove hitch. So that's really easy. Let me show you that again. If I'm doing the 2 loop method, make a loop, make a second loop exactly the same way as the first loop, pass the second loop behind the first loop, put it over and pull it tight. The second way of tying the clove hitch, imagine I can't get to the end of the bit of wood. I just put the string around and then around again, making a cross in the middle, and then the third time it comes round, I put the string under the middle of the cross, pull it tight, and there's the clove hitch. And if you want a slightly tighter version of the clove hitch, then you can turn this really easily into a constrictor knot. So let me show you that. So if I pass it over and pass it over again, when you come around the third time, instead of going directly through the middle, I'm just going to pass it around and then through the middle. And the difference is, when you look at the knot, you've got a fixed bit of rope which is bearing down on a knot like that, and that's a very, very tight knot, and it gets tighter the tighter you pull it, and sometimes it gets so tight you won't be able to undo it. The second knot to look at is the round turn and 2 half hitches. This is another knot that's useful to tie a rope off to a tree or a bit of wood, and it's the friction on this knot that holds it still. To tie the round turn and 2 half hitches, I'm just working with one end of the rope now. The other end could be attached to a boat or a horse or a shelter or anything that you're attempting to tie still. So with one end of the rope, I'm going to pass it around. Now that's only one turn, it's not a full turn, it's just a half turn, so the full round turn you need to put it around a second time. So you then tie the 2 half hitches, and these are really simple. You pass the rope through, pull tight, and then pass the rope through and pull tight again. So you can see what you've got there is the 2 half hitches stay together, and the more you pull, the tighter it gets. Now it's actually the friction that's holding this together, not the 2 half hitches, so you can put quite a lot of force on the end of this and you can still untie the knot at the end. Now we're going to look at the sheep bend. The sheep bend's a really useful knot for tying 2 bits of rope together. It's a lot more secure than the reef knot, which you might have learned in the Scouts. So I'm just going to use 2 different size bits of rope like this. In my left hand I'm going to curl this bit of rope over into a C like that, and in the right hand I'm going to come up through the middle, round the outside like this, and then just tucking this end through the top like that. And that's a sheep bend. That's a very secure knot. So I'm just going to show you that again. With that in a C like that, I place it up, curl it around, and then put it through the top, and just make sure it settles properly, and that's very secure. Now if you want even more security, you can tie a double sheep bend. So as I've come up through the middle and put it through once, I can pass it all the way around and put it through a second time, and you see it curls together like that, and that's a bit more secure. The final use for a sheep bend can be if you're attempting to tie a bit of string to something like the corner of a tarpaulin. If you use the eye on the tarpaulin, it sometimes pulls out. So if you've got any sort of corner of material or plastic, again you can curl that into a C that you can hold in that hand, and then tie off the sheet bend exactly the same way. And that will hold the corner of your tarp really securely. The next knot we'll be looking at is the timber hitch. And the timber hitch is really useful for temporarily attaching a rope to a tree or a bit of wood. And this is what we use if we're pitching a big tarp for everyone to work under or to hold a campfire under. So you can imagine if you're a pretty small person and you want to try and get a rope quite high up a tree, you can only tie it as high as you can reach. But with a timber hitch, you can tie it much higher than that. So here's the way to do it. You pass the rope around the tree and then put it back on itself and then wind it around a number of times. 1, 2, 3 times like that. So what you've got is a running eye like that, and it grips onto the tree. So you can leave it pretty loosely and then shove it up the tree using a long stick or a couple of sticks, and then when you've got it at the height you want, you put a bit of pressure on it and it stays there. And then when you want to get it down again, you insert a stick in under that knot and just work it down and then untie it, and it unties really easily. And it's another one of these knots that just holds together with friction. So next we're going to look at the trucker's hitch, and the trucker's hitch is really useful if you want to put a lot of force into a string or a rope. So I'm going to pass this, I've got this end attached to a heavy weight and I want to make a really tight line. So I'm going to pass this around the tree, and then a little bit back from the tree I make a loop, and then I pull a loop through that loop like this. So as I put the working end through that, you can see that when I pull it back I get like a block and tackle effect here. So I can put a lot of force into that. You see it tightens the line up. And it's this bit here that's called the trucker's hitch, because it's used to secure things down to lorries. So I'm going to finish this off by just passing it around the tree once, and then almost exactly like around 10 2/2 hitches, but around all of the strings at the end there, like that. That's how you can use a trucker's hitch to make a really tight line. The last knot we're going to look at in this video is what you need to do if you need a loop in the rope. So you might need a loop if you're using it for climbing, or if you're using it for rescues, like someone stuck in the mud. So the first technique we'll look at is the bowline. So to make the bowline, I'm going to draw a 6 with the rope, like that. So you see it comes down and round like a 6. Then I'm going to take the working end and I'm going to pass it up through the middle, round the back, and then back down the hole where it came up. And that's a bowline, and that'll make a very secure rope, but also it's easy to untie. The second way we'll look at to make a loop in the rope is a rethreaded figure of 8, and this is the sort of knot we use in climbing these days. So firstly you need a figure of 8. So that's a pretty simple knot, and I'll tie one for you here. You see it just looks like an 8. And then to turn that into a rethreaded figure of 8 loop, I'm just going to follow by putting the working end back up to create this loop, and then just follow this knot all the way around and down, and then back through there, and that makes another pretty secure loop. In this video we've covered a few knots that might be useful for you in the Scouts Pioneering Badge. Please practice these at home while you've got some time. This is really useful stuff you can practice when we can't go out. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, stay safe and look after each other. Bye bye.